Josh from Den of Nerds, the Filoni Faithful himself, is back to spread more lies and hopium about what's going on at Lucasfilm and the relationship between Kathleen Kennedy and Dave. And he starts off by bringing up this past rumor about Dave Filoni gatekeeping Star Wars.
What Joanna said was that she had heard that Dave Filoni was a gatekeeper at Star Wars. And he was actually really, as opposed to the perception you get of him on stage when he's all smiles, a big cutthroat behind the scenes and very protective of the Star Wars brand. I think she described him as somewhat of a wall that other projects had to pass through or around or over.
To me, this rumor sounds like complete bullshit. For some reason, all of these idiots reporting on it don't seem to think there might be a connection between the fans' reaction to Andor and how they are shitting on Dave, and then this rumor coming out that Dave doesn't like Tony Gilroy or Andor or whatever. It just sounds like fake reactionary bullshit.
We know from reporting from Harloff that Dave came in and changed Acolyte a bunch. He cut that shit up, changed it all around, and this was an example of him asserting that CCO power, the potentially co-president power that he's about to get.
Harloff is about as reliable as Josh is, and Josh is about as reliable as Doomcock, so you shouldn't really listen to anything these idiots say.
Tony Gilroy was protected from Dave by Kathy. She somewhat explicitly explains that Dave did not like what was going on with Andor. Just like Dave doesn't like a lot of what goes on with other people's Star Wars projects.
Whose projects? Who the fuck else is making Star Wars other than him? What are you talking about, you dickhead? If you're referring to whatever Kathleen Kennedy wants, Dave also wants. They're on the same page. That's how he got the position he's in. You twat.
And although Dave didn't necessarily have all the power during Andor season 1, he definitely has a lot of power now. And the way Joanna said it was because of Tony Gilroy's close relationship with Kathleen Kennedy, Tony Gilroy and all of his creative decisions, which probably is the sexual assault, all of his decisions were protected by Kathy against Dave's purview.
I don't know why these absolute fucking mongoloids keep harping on about this sexual assault shit. That scene barely qualifies as a rape scene. Let it go.
So this, to me, corroborates the report from Harloff that Dave came in and cut Acolyte completely apart and changed it. And from what I've heard, Acolyte was going to be way darker. It was going to shit on Anakin's legacy way more. It was going to do some wild shit. We already don't like Acolyte. It was already goobly glob. It was already kind of, stepping on the line of canon a little bit. From what I understand, it was going to be way fucking worse. And Dave came in and cut that thing completely apart and made it different.
So Dave had all of this influence over the Acolyte. He cut it apart, as you say, but he left that one shot of Plagueis in there that completely retcons the Plagueis novel from Disney canon. That's not canon anymore, thanks to Dave, because Dave left that shot in. Why didn't he just get rid of it? Dave was fully in support of the Acolyte. He reviewed every script. The final product is 100% approved by him.
He did not want Andor to be the way that it was. This is important to remember. Okay. This brings a couple of things to mind to me. Number one, do you guys remember the comments that Gilroy made over the past couple of weeks about how journalists and fans were trying to drive a wedge between Filoni, Kathy, and Gilroy? Do you remember those comments? I think within the context of this new reporting, those are pretty interesting because he knew exactly what he was doing when he said that.
What is Tony Gilroy trying to say? Because to me, it just sounds like he's saying what I'm saying. The fans are having a go at Filoni, and then these fucking idiot hack journalists come out and start spreading rumors that support their dislike of Filoni. It all seems like such bullshit that you're buying into for some reason. Because you're retarded, probably?
This makes me think of comments from Dave from 2 years ago. We're on stage at Star Wars Celebration. He offhandedly said, "Sometimes I ask Kathy, why do you greenlight the Star Wars projects that you greenlight?" It was a super offhanded comment that not a lot of people picked up on. But I was like, whoa, what's that mean? This makes me think of recent comments from the past few weeks of Dave in Tokyo talking about how the legacy of George Lucas was so important to him. He damn near came to tears talking about how it was important for him to fight for the legacy of what George said Star Wars was.
Dave Filoni does not care about the legacy of George Lucas or George Lucas Star Wars. If he did, he wouldn't have retconned the expanded universe, which is George Lucas Star Wars. If he cared about George Lucas Star Wars, he wouldn't bastardize those characters and those stories. If he cared about what George Lucas thought Star Wars should be, he wouldn't love the sequels in those characters, which Dave Filoni does. He is a massive Rey fanboy.
Now, that takes us all then to the reporting that I had several weeks ago about the creative overhaul and the civil war behind the scenes at Lucasfilm.
There is no civil war between Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni. They are a team, they're a duo, they're on the same page for Star Wars. If you actually think they're at odds, you're retarded.
There are people within Lucasfilm that want a complete overhaul of how Lucasfilm is greenlighting projects and making Star Wars. Basically, there was a camp there that does not want to do all these Rey movies, that does not want to do Andor, that does not want to do, frankly, stuff like Acolyte, and wants to literally overhaul completely how Star Wars makes its content. And it was described to me that a lot of the stuff we'd been hearing in the press about Kathy was Kathy using mouthpieces to consolidate power and control because there was this struggle going on. And I think now with these comments here, I think it's pretty obvious that this conflict is Dave Filoni on one side wanting to revamp Star Wars so that it lines up more closely with what George would have done, and Kathleen Kennedy, who wants to do two things. Number one, she wants to protect her own legacy by not making it seem like they're now just going to go away from everything that she did. But also, obviously, Kathy has stood up for different visions and different things within Star Wars, right?
You see how he links wanting Rey movies and Andor existing together? Because he's labeling them both as Kathleen Kennedy's ideas. That's what she wants. Dave Filoni also wants more of Rey. Rey Skywalker, he loves that character. If you think he's going to become the CEO and we're never going to see that character again because of that, you're a fucking idiot.
And it really does seem like on one side you have Kathy, who doesn't understand Star Wars and frankly treats it more like a corporate-owned IP that needs to branch out, diversify, become more accessible to the marketplace, all of these different concepts. And then you have a guy like Dave, who's a Pittsburgh boy that moved to California, didn't know a lick about how that town went down, and was hired by George Lucas himself and fostered as the next version of the creator.
This is where he starts to bring in this idea of, oh, Filoni's not like these people in Hollywood. He's not from there. He doesn't think the way they do. And also he spreads this lie about him being, what, George's apprentice or his protege? That's bullshit. It's not fucking true. In the year 2025, I'm surprised there are people who actually still believe that.
So I think there's obviously been a rift within the fandom, especially over the past couple of years, of people that feel that Star Wars needs to branch out, reinvent itself, do more stuff like Andor. And then there are people like me that completely reject that and say, no, Star Wars is what it is. If you change it too much, it no longer is Star Wars. It's just sci-fi with the Star Wars name on it that might occasionally dip into the mythic, but it is not, at that point, Star Wars.
Nothing within the Disney canon is real Star Wars. Simple as that. Real Star Wars is the original 6 films and the expanded universe. Anything Dave Filoni makes for Disney is not real Star Wars, and if you're a fan of it, you're just a fake fan.
There's a lot of people online that make a lot of noise, and sometimes it's easier than other times to separate that noise from the reality of what the wider audience is thinking and doing. But I think that a couple of weeks ago, a 20-year-old George Lucas movie came out. And it made headlines, it broke records, it caused content creators to take notice and cover it, because that's how shocking that was.
Revenge of the Sith making a lot of money on its re-release is not shocking. It's not surprising. Disney knew exactly what would happen. That's why they did it.
And to have that going down at the same time that Andor is floundering when you actually just look at the numbers, and sure, there's a social media imprint there, not even a large one. I would argue that it is self-evident that the right direction for Star Wars is more aligned with George's vision and therefore safer in the hands of Dave Filoni.
Again, Dave's vision for Star Wars is Kathleen Kennedy's vision at the end of the day. Even if Dave genuinely doesn't like Andor, everything else Kathleen Kennedy has approved of, Dave also approves of. And Dave doesn't know what real Star Wars is. He does not know what George Lucas Star Wars is. He's a fraud.
I also think that because Andor is just the latest in the legacy line of Kathleen Kennedy, that's the thing that this report truly shows you, right? This was Kennedy's baby. Dave was like, I don't know about rape. Kath was, I love it.
Yeah, way to make Dave Filoni look good by saying a woman loves rape. Jesus Christ, this guy is actually insane. If you're watching this and you still take this guy seriously, there has to be something wrong with you.
So I'm trying to be super fair here because I know there are so many of you that love Andor, and I'm not here to yuck your yum, man. I mean, it's not my thing. I don't think it's Star Wars. I reject it completely. But I think even just on the merits, given the context, if you really understand what's going on, I don't think this is working. And I think beyond that, this feels like cosmic fucking justice to me.
Cosmic justice is Andor not being profitable. Okay. And trying to be fair by saying Kathleen Kennedy loves rape. Come on, dude. You're so full of shit.
I find it so fascinating that this article and this scoop from Joanna just confirms that, yes, Dave is not as nice behind the scenes. In fact, he is fighting hard. He's fighting hard. He's being a real hard ass about this. And he's being a hard ass because he strongly feels Star Wars should align with how George saw it when he first created it. He is the CCO. He will be co-president. The question now becomes, how much influence will Kathy have? Will the object failure of Andor, which is predicted by me, we don't know for sure, but is the object failure of Andor the final nail in the coffin of this civil war?
There is no civil war. Dave is going to make the same things he always does, which is Disney slop. Disney Star Wars. You are gonna get Rey movies under Dave Filoni, regardless of what you think is going on at Lucasfilm, because he loves that fucking character.
This story gives me personally so much hope. This guy is fighting in an environment of Hollywood people. He is not a Hollywood guy. In an environment of power-hungry people. He is not a power-hungry guy. He is a good old boy. He is a blue-collar Pittsburgh guy. He is a Yinzer. I've spoken to him. I've spoken to people that know him. In that world, in that environment, he is fighting for what he personally believes is right, and that is that Star Wars should be like what George Lucas had.
First of all, you don't get the position of power and influence he's in without being a Hollywood guy. It doesn't fucking matter if you're not from Hollywood. He is a Hollywood guy, he's a Hollywood hack, and he's not made a single thing that resembles George Lucas Star Wars. And stop slinging the fucking hopium. It's clearly a grift. Either he's grifting or he's just stupid. Which is it? You decide.
And to me, that's an incredible fucking thing. I'm grateful. I am thankful. You know, I was a bit concerned after the whole story with the grape that I was like, how could Dave have signed off on this, right? And I almost felt like when he was damn near in tears at Celebration talking about defending George's version of Star Wars, I almost felt like he was talking about that exact thing. And now I feel much better because he did not want it in there. And Kathy insisted.
Slavery, genocide, mass murder, indiscriminate killing, that's all okay to have in Star Wars, but an Imperial officer trying to take advantage of a woman he's in a position of power over, that's way too far. And there's far darker things that happen in the expanded universe, which is George Lucas' Star Wars.
So that's the story. I tried to report as cleanly as I possibly can, guys. The reality is there is a conflict. The reality is there is a team that wants to revamp. There is a team that does not want to do what Kathy is doing. And then there's Kathy's plan with 16 Rey movies.
What a fucking retard.